What up, everybody? At the beginning of BMF Season 2, there was news reports from Deadline and other companies that the BMF universe was going to be expanding with spin-offs, and that they were going to be calling it BMF Immortals. And around this same time, 50 Cent took to social media and said that there would be a Lamar spin-off. Keeping in mind that Season 2 concluded with Lamar turning into a basehead as it showed him wandering the streets as Terry and Marquisha passed by. And the next time we saw Lamar, I think will be a key element to the Lamar spinoff. As the next time we saw him, he was in rehab, and he had been in there for 3 months. Then after getting out, he continued his quest for revenge against Meech and Terry, and was presumably killed in the final episode. I say presumably because I'm not so quick to write Lamar off unless I see them put that man in the ground or something like that. But because Lamar's supposedly dead, I think it's most likely that if there is a Lamar spinoff, that it would be a Lamar prequel. And I think it would be narrated by OG Lamar from his time in rehab. The spinoff would probably also show flashback scenes from Lamar's childhood, keeping in mind how much he talked about his mama and his childhood in Season 4. But the actual story will probably start from the time he arrived in Detroit and run until the time he went into the mental institution that he had just got out of at the beginning of Season 1. Keeping in mind that in Episode 1 of the series, it gave a lesson on Lamar's backstory, and I think that would be what the prequel would be about. They said Lamar was a legend, then talked about Southwest Detroit, Ecorse, and River Rouge, and how they were all connected, and how a bunch of different dealers used to run a lot of different sections. But this one man, Lamar, used to terrorize the entire area, pushing H and robbing dealers until he got popped on an assault charge. So I'm guessing that the timeline that the narrator was talking about when he was talking about Lamar's backstory was the 70s and early to mid 80s. And like how the narrator said, a bunch of different dealers used to run different sections. There were several well-known dealers from Detroit in this time period. And BMF Episode 2 went into this story a little bit as it showed young Meech, Terry, and Roland West watching TV. The episode started out with Meech speeding through traffic on his way to the hospital after finding out the news that Terry had been shot. When the narrator said, "Everybody in the game knows the risks. Getting locked up, ganked, or smoked is part of it. But you don't think about that before you get in it. You're just thinking about how sweet the whole thing looks." Then he said when they were growing up, every kid in their hood wanted to be like Billy Sims, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and all the other black stars on the Michigan sports teams. But not Meech and T. They wanted to be like the Chambers brothers, who the movie New Jack City was based on, and YBI, Young Boys Incorporated, who all the Detroit D-boys patterned themselves after. YBI was the first crew in the city to only hire kids. All them dudes had money, women, clothes, and fly whips. But more than anything, they had respect. In addition to the Chambers brothers and YBI, the biggest players from that time might have been the Best Friends gang, with leaders Maserati Rick and Demetrius Holloway. And I always thought it was ironic that the two biggest dealers ever out of the city of Detroit were both named Demetrius. And Meech even mentioned Maserati Rick in the Season 1 finale. He said him and Roland used to drive all the way to the east side to check out Maserati Rick and his crew at the car wash to peep game. So because the Chamber brothers, YBI, and the Best Friends gang were the three biggest crews from Lamar's time, I definitely think they would be incorporated into a Lamar prequel, because how it said part of his backstory was robbing other dealers. So in a Lamar prequel, I think he would be similar to a character like Omar from The Wire, except for the funny how he used to rob all the dealers and cause chaos throughout that series. And the characters from the BMF series that we would also see in a Lamar prequel would be Slick from the 12th Street crew in Season 1, who was part of Lamar's crew, the Delray Boys, before he got sent to the mental institution. But at that point, he didn't go by Slick, his nickname was PM. Slick said when Lamar got locked up that the crew couldn't get any more product and had to go their separate ways. And that's when he rebranded himself as Slick and joined the 12th Street crew. We'll also see Monique in a Lamar prequel and possibly even get the backstory how they met and who Zoe's real father actually is. If it was Lamar or somebody else. Because at the beginning of the series, Monique straight up told Lamar that Zoe wasn't his. But in season 2, she told him that she was his. But I think that was part of her plan to manipulate Lamar and turn him into a base hit. Personally, I always thought there was a good chance that Slick was Zoe's real father. Another character who will be in the Lamar prequel is his cousin Alvin, who ended up turning on Lamar at the end of season 2, helping Meech turn him into a base hit. And because of that, Lamar killed Alvin, cremating him alive in season 4. I think the relationship between Lamar and Alvin will be a similar parallel to the relationship between Kanan and Jukebox in Raising Kanan, how they're so close that nobody could believe that Kanan would end up one day killing Jukebox. I think it'll be a similar relationship with Alvin and Lamar, and people will be surprised about how close the two once were. And we'll also see a young Kato and her father see Love, who was a part of Lamar's crew. When Meech went to talk to Boom about Lamar, Boom said that both Lamar and Kato's father were crazy. And after seeing how crazy Boom is in season 4, that has to be saying a lot. But concerning Kato, keep in mind whatever Lamar got locked up and went to the mental institution for had some to do with him protecting Kato. And that's why he was holding over her head, forcing her to give her information about the 50 boys in season 1. So at the end of the series, ideally we would find out exactly what happened in that entire situation. So because the BMF series left so many questions open about Lamar, it definitely seems like a Lamar prequel had been something that they had thought about from the beginning. Now going back to the crews I mentioned from back in those days and how Meech even talked about Maserati Rick and how Meech used to go check out his car wash. He was telling this to Kato, and Kato told him that her pops and his crew used to talk about that spot all the time. Keep it in mind that Lamar was part of the crew that used to always talk about that car wash. But what she didn't say was they were probably talking about how they were going to rob that car wash and different things like that. Other characters from BMF who we could potentially see make an appearance or two in a Lamar prequel would be Detective Bryant, who could actually be a regular in that series as well. And also dealers like Pat, Boom, K9, and Big L. All these dealers being a lot younger at that point in time, and likely not at the level in the game that we saw them when they were introduced in the BMF series. Not to mention, we could even get a scene or two with the Flannery family as well, whether that would be Charles or Lucille when they were younger, or a young Meech or Terry. But because there's so many characters to dig into, and so many storylines that could come out of a Lamar prequel, it could potentially even be a better series than BMF was. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.